Good evening, everyone. And thank you very much for your patience as a technology problem was solved. We are live streaming this concert tonight, and we want to make sure that anyone listening on the live stream hears all the instruments just as you will tonight in the hall. So thank you very much for your patience. Tonight is the first of 2 nights of competition in the finals of the 2022 North American Piano Competition sponsored by PianoArts. And as Sue Medford mentioned a moment ago, we are very pleased that Sigma Alpha Iota Milwaukee Alumni Chapter sponsors an award for this duo concert, which is what we're going to hear tonight. Each of the 3 finalists will play a solo piece of their choice, and they will also be playing a duo with either Delana Leung, a violinist with the Milwaukee Symphony, or Scott Tisdall, a cellist with the Milwaukee Symphony. So we're very happy to welcome those 2 guests to play with our young artists this evening. The second night of competition is tomorrow night, and this is for all the marbles, essentially. The 3 finalists who you hear tonight will be playing full concertos, concertos, three of those things, with the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra at the Bradley Symphony Center. We welcome all of you to come to that concert. It's going to be a very festive evening. The concert itself begins at 7:30, and at 6:30 there'll be a pre-concert talk in the hall in which you'll be able to learn a little bit more about the contestants. Derek Hartman, who was one of the winners of the 2018 competition, will be doing a little live interview with the 3 of them, so we don't know what will happen. So now I'm very happy to present to you our finalists for the 2022 North American Piano Competition, and I'm going to open the door so they know they should come in.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here today. It's a great pleasure to play in this beautiful church, to have you as our audience. And if you recognized some of what you just heard, it's probably because it was based on a spiritual called Wade in the Water. So the composer was Margaret Bonds, who was an African-American pianist and composer, born in Chicago, lived in the States, and was a real champion of African-American music and art during the middle of the 20th century. Now, while my wonderful collaborator, Delena Leung, and my friend, the painter, come to the stage, Ailun, I will tell you a bit about Schumann's Violin Sonata in A minor. We're playing the first movement. Now, the descriptive text right at the start of this movement is mit leidenschaftlichem Ausdruck, which means with passionate expression. And maybe that seems kind of like a generic term for classical music. Isn't it all passionate? But when you understand the context of Schumann's life at the time, it really takes on a deeper meaning. So, a year before writing this piece, Robert Schumann and his family moved to Düsseldorf for him to take up the post as the director of music. And at first he was received very enthusiastically by the musicians and the city, but after just a few months, it turned for the worse, as, well, he wasn't a great conductor or a great leader, wasn't very assertive, and he also just had steadily declining health. For years already, he had suffered with serious depression, nervous breakdowns, and if you know about the end of his life, which actually at this time he's already coming to, just 3 years later, he would attempt suicide, he would admit himself to a mental asylum, and so this is the context in which he composes this piece in 1851. Now we understand what this Leidenschaft is all about, this passion. Now the way that we hear this in this piece is especially because of a technique, compositional technique that he used especially during this time, which is using just a small number of musical ideas, very, very small, and reusing them in all different ways again and again throughout the movement. Just listen to these first 4 measures of the violin part. So what I notice in that is just sigh after sigh, la da da da, and to make up that one melody. And we will hear that at the beginning of the piece 2 more times, and then again shortened, and then again in smaller fragments, each time starting on a different pitch. And that really makes up this whole movement. Even the second theme, which in sonata form is supposed to be a contrasting character, it's the same melody, just in a major key. So this passion, this obsessive idea is just coming again and again. At the end, we think it might be a happy, triumphant ending, as after some virtuosic violin passage, it comes to an A major chord, and we think, is this the end? And suddenly it's A minor again for these final impetuous chords just thrown at us. And so we really get this passion, this suffering that he's feeling. And it's amazing to note that he wrote this whole piece, all 3 movements, in just 5 days. So clearly this was just pouring out of him. We have really enjoyed working on this. It's been a pleasure to play with Delena, and I look forward to sharing it with you now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here after 2 years of postponement. I'm so happy to be in Milwaukee finally. The work you just heard was a short work that I composed in 2019 titled Astro Mirage. In this piece, I wanted to evoke an image of stars at night. This image that then gets interrupted by a fierce storm, which then disintegrates and dissolves, leaving you with the image once again. The next work you're about to hear is the first movement of Brahms's Violin Sonata No. 2 in A major, Opus 100. This movement is one of Brahms's late masterpieces, which features a lot of warmth, intimacy, and tenderness that you get so much in Brahms's later works. I think one of Brahms's great compositional achievements, in my view, is that he was able to create music that is extremely satisfying to listen to, both emotionally and intellectually. He was able to combine the worlds of the Romantic and Classical eras. He took the pathos of the Romantic era and combined it with the logos of the Classical era that we all love so much. This sonata is certainly no exception to this. Beneath every heartwarming moment lies the most masterful construction and counterpoint. Now, please give a warm welcome to Miss Liang, my great duet partner, as we perform the Brahms for you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming today, and I'm very honored to be one of the 3 finalists this year. And now I would like to invite my cellist, Scott, and my page turner, my friend Solomon, to be on stage. And before I play my duo piece, I would like to say a few words about why I chose to start with Debussy's Pagodas. First, I think it functions as a great introductory piece, and it makes a nice transition into the duo piece I will be playing next. And somehow French music just simply goes well with Russian music, especially when the two are both written in the early 20th century, with Debussy's Pagodas in 1903 and Shostakovich in 1934. And to me, both pieces require this combination of substance and transparency in terms of sound, while Debussy is more about depicting this physical imagery, this gamelan, metallic gamelan and bell sound from his impression of the Orient. This Shostakovich cello sonata is more abstract in general, as he brings this emotionally restrained sensation which is related to his personal life and the politics at the time, which corresponds to a colder and low temperature interpretation. And if we say Debussy's music is all about depicting colors and shading, then I think Shostakovich's music, with this one especially, one of his early works, Opus 40, it somehow shows a restrained sentiment and a hint of romanticism even. So Shostakovich wrote this cello sonata during a period of emotional turbulence in his life, as he had fallen in love with a young student, and their affair resulted in a brief divorce with his wife, but they soon remarried after. And it was during their brief divorce that he wrote this cello sonata to fulfill a request from his cellist friend, Viktor Kubatsky. And to me, there are fragments in this first movement that show, there are fragments in this first movement that somehow show his mixed feelings about everything that was going on at the time in his life. And this first movement is quite, this sonata in general is quite a distinct work from his general output, as it somehow relies on a classical form which is very different from many of his early works. And it also doesn't show a distressed musical language which is typical of his later style. And in the first theme, the beginning, we begin with the piano part playing those arpeggiated patterns, which renders a very searching and uncertain atmosphere. And we begin with this very broad first theme in the cello part. And now I would like to invite Scott to show the first theme. Thank you. And then the first theme will be developed with more and more tension and intensity, later eased with the transition into the tender second theme. And the second theme functions almost like a warm sunlight with quite a romantic tone. And it can be seen as his passion of love. And it is carried by the piano first and then imitated on the cello with even more expression. And this is how the second theme sounds like. Then the second theme, will be imitated on the cello later with even more expression. That's that. And then going into the development, and throughout the development, there will be a sharp rhythmic motive underneath. And this somehow displays a military effect, which is typical of Shostakovich's composition. And it has something to do with his complex relationship with the Soviet Union and the surrounding politics at the time. And it's in the recapitulation, Shostakovich omits the first theme and brings in the second theme directly. And then in the last coda section, he brings back the first theme, which is marked pianissimo at the beginning, and with everything going in a slower motion. And it gradually leads to a very dark ending with this rhythmic motive coming back underneath and going along. And to me, I think this sonata somehow shows his passion and romance associated with his affair. And it's also combined with this sort of uncertainty and mental anxiety at a deeper level. Now I will play the first movement for you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. You have received a taste of what you will hear tomorrow night at the Bradley Symphony Center at 7:30. It's been a real privilege to get acquainted with the finalists and to enjoy their exceptional talent. And I hope you'll be with us tomorrow night at 7:30 at the Bradley Symphony Center. Thank you so much for coming.